Hello, my loves. Let me share this broadcast. If you are catching the replay, hashtag it replay. Let me know that you were here, where you're watching from. Okay. We are shared out. And we're going to put this over here. Okay. Hello, everybody. Hello, my loves. I'm so excited to be live. It's been a minute. And so I thought I would come on and just have a cosmic conversation where we get to chat about what it is that you guys want to talk about. So how are things going with you? How are you feeling? I know the energy is super intense right now, and everybody's feeling and trying to navigate the energy. It's a lot. So if you're just like doing the very best that you can and getting out of bed and trying to function, then I'm proud of you. Then you're doing exactly what you are able to do. And so it's really important for us to have grace for ourselves and compassion for ourselves, and to know that we have the ability to do and live our very best life, even though the outside world may reflect back something completely different. It's okay. So as you guys are coming on, let me know how you're doing. Let me know where you're watching from, how you're feeling. The energy is really, really, really intense. And I know I say that a lot, but it's only going to get more intense. It's only going to get stronger. So as the frequency of the planet raises, which we have been doing steady increases since probably about the middle of last year, the more that the light comes in, the more that is exposed, the more that the body is activated, the more that the more trauma, the more density is brought to the surface. In fact, let me share this with you guys, because this came through yesterday. And I want to read it really quick. If I can find it. If I can find it. Who else writes everything in their notes? Like, seriously, I put everything in my notes. Okay, here we are. What we are healing collectively is and ancestrally is control, manipulation, and absolute abuse of power. So I'm going to say that again. What we are healing collectively and ancestrally is control, manipulation, and a complete abuse of power. That is something that has came through yesterday. Hi, Maria, Central New York. I love New York. And it's pretty obvious if you look at the world stage, if you look at what's happening in the world, it makes sense that what we're healing collectively and ancestrally is control and manipulation and a complete abuse of power. And so the emotional digestion cycle that we are all in right now, and the amount of photonic light and the amount of frequency that is being raised, and the amount of photonic light that we are allowing to penetrate into the planet and into our bodies, is really activating the solar plexus and the sacral. Those are the two. I mean, obviously the root chakra has been activated for it seems to be a constant activation, right? So most people have spent their entire lives living in a state of fight or flight, have spent their entire lives living in an activated nervous system. But what we're doing right now is doing a major healing of that sacral and solar plexus energy. So that's going to be sexual abuse. It's going to be abuse in general. It's going to be narcissistic behavior. It's going to be control, manipulation, mind control. You're going to hear your mind going like a million miles a minute. You're going to have so much energy being activated. You're going to have so much agitation, aggravation, anger. All of that's being penetrated and being brought up to the surface, being brought up to the heart space. And the things that are going on in the world are helping to activate that as well. It's a pressurizing that's taking place. We can't move collectively into a new frequency until everybody, or I should say everybody, the majority gets on board and starts to do this work and starts to really release judgment and start accepting and being okay with being different, not all agreeing and being on the same page, being okay with being angry, being okay with being sad, being okay with being dissatisfied with your life, being okay with things not being okay. You have to release judgment in order to shift frequencies. And that's something that the world is really, really, really struggling with right now. Whatever's happening on the world stage is all a show, you guys. It's all a show. It's all orchestrated. It's all for play. Is there real human sacrifices that take place in that? Absolutely. Is that okay? Absolutely not. But the only way that we will move frequencies collectively, the only way that we will begin to navigate and live in a space that is more free is if you set yourselves free. If each and every single person on the planet decides that they're going to do the work to integrate any and all places that they are feeling judged or are judging, judgment has to go. Judgment has to go. Judging other people just shows where you are also judging yourself. So you got to release the judgment. And we think about fear. So many people don't even realize that they're living in fear or the state of fear. And it is such an uncomfortable place to be. It creates so much human suffering in our bodies and in our own personal reality that just creates a domino effect of more suffering because it just gets that train rolling. And if you are suffering, if you are feeling pain and you are hurting, your job is to have grace and honor those emotions. What are true boundaries? True boundaries are honoring your state of being, honoring yourself. It's not saying, hey, you don't speak to me that way. That's a request. A boundary is saying, oh, I don't allow people to speak to me this way, and turning around and walking away. So every single person has to learn to lead themselves and to be okay with things not being okay with whatever is. A lot of times we have trouble accepting simply because if we accept what is, if we accept the feeling, we accept that pain, we don't feel like it will ever go away. The ego mind tricks you into believing it will be a constant state. So instead it says, we don't want you to feel pain. And we're going to do everything in our power to distract you from it. So scroll on social media. So go binge watch TV. So go eat. So go get in someone else's business. So get wrapped up in the news, get out there and start telling people what to do, whatever it is. You have to stop, sit down and sit and be with that energy and know that it's okay and love yourself through it. Be okay with being angry. Be with your anger. Be with your anger. It's a visitor. It's catapulting you somewhere. It's trying to get you to see where you're not okay with something, where there is an imbalance in your body and in your energy. If you are sad, maybe it's time for you to stop playing the roles that you've been playing that aren't serving your energy, that aren't serving you. So there's so much going on in the world, and your only job is to release judgment of it. Is it terrible that there's human sacrifice happening right now? Is it terrible that inflation is here? Is it terrible that there's still control and manipulation going on. Yes, but as long as you allow it, and as long as you play in that energy, as long as you contribute to it by complaining about it and by feeding into it and sharing it, the bigger it gets. The minute everybody decides that they're not going to give any attention to the shenanigans and the movies that are playing on the world stage, and you just focus on what it is that is going to cultivate peace and happiness in you, and how cultivate what it is that you need to live your best life, the sooner we will all be doing that together. But this is a story that we've been talking about since before the pandemic even happened. This is something that we've been talking about, known as the shift or the event, for many, many years now. We've been trying to prepare humans for this exact experience right now for a very long time. But unfortunately, spirituality has become a new religion. It's become a new religion where, something that the guide said a few days ago was, actually it was yesterday, I believe, is anyone can learn to read cards, anyone can learn to meditate, anyone can learn the spiritual lingo and develop a spiritual ego. There's nothing wrong with that. That is a part of the journey. It is a part of the journey, whether we like it or not. It is a part of that journey. But are you conscious? Are you self-aware? Can you recognize when you are creating subtext? Can you recognize when you are creating stories? Can you recognize when you are playing in a different character? Can you recognize when you are playing the role of the victim? Can you recognize when you're getting caught up in it and recognize that it's a role? We are all multidimensional. Can you recognize when you're being taken over by something? Can you recognize when you are caught up in control and manipulation and fear? Because in the moment of self-awareness, in the moment when you recognize that you're in a pattern, in the moment when you recognize that you are in a dense emotion, when you recognize that there's a story playing that you don't like, the universe is handing you the keyboard, handing you the controls, and saying, what do you want instead? You're the one who's perpetuating this story. You're the one who's buying into it. Judgment is the absolute source of almost all pain. It is one thing to make an observation. What's the difference? This is a question I get a lot, and it's the question that I had when I was going through this journey, is what's the difference between an observation and a judgment? There's no attachment. You don't care if somebody is that way or isn't that way. You're just observing it and saying, this is what I'm witnessing right now. This is how I see it. I am not attached to it being right or wrong. I'm not trying to prove that person or correct that person or change that person. I'm observing that this is how this person is acting. I'm observing that this is how this person is speaking and portraying and showing up in the world. Now I get to decide, is that something I want to contribute to? Is that something that I want to have in my life? Is that something that I want, to be in my energy? Yes or no? It's that simple. But when we judge somebody, we try to correct them. We try to make them fit into our story, into our beliefs, because it says that right there, it shows you where you're in fear. It shows you where you don't feel safe. It shows you, judgment shows you where you don't feel safe, where you are in fear. And sometimes that means we people please. Sometimes that means we say yes to things or no to things that we didn't want to. Again, you're judging yourself, you're judging that person. You're saying, if I don't do this thing or say this thing or act this certain way, they won't love me. That is a judgment. That is fear-based. So if you want to know what it means to be truly conscious and to truly be self-aware, it means that your heart is wide open and you allow yourself to feel it all. The good, the bad, the weird, whatever it is, you allow yourself to feel it. Do I believe in Jesus? Yes, I believe in Jesus. I work with Jesus often. Do I believe in church and religion? No. Because if Jesus doesn't judge. Jesus believes there's no right or wrong. Jesus was a human who mastered his ascension. And that's why people think that he was reborn. They saw him in his light body form, which we all are capable of, which we all already are. Do I believe in Jesus was a very good human and teaches us how to be a human who doesn't judge? Yes. I don't believe in the church. I don't believe in religion. Okay, so apparently the guides wanted to bring some of that through, and I shared some of my own in there. Let's see what we got. Texas. There's that beautiful state showing up for me again. I swear to God, something's either big going to happen in Texas or I'm moving to Texas, one or the other. Lithuania. That's awesome. Corey says so much anger was releasing last week. Yes, so much anger. And there'll be more of it that will come. Anytime we're dealing with the sacral or solar plexus healings, ancestral healings, big collective healings, that is going to be, it's going to bring those things up. So you have to listen to your body. So I'm always teaching people to tap into their body, to read their body, to listen to their body, to learn how to utilize their energy. Anger is such an amazing source. It's such an amazing emotion, but it is a visitor. So much solar activations. Yes, we just had huge solar flares shooting out yesterday too. And that's such a good point. Corey says it's been almost 5 years and I'm finally accepting, allowing, and releasing the judgment. It takes damn time. You know, I teach about this and I've taught about this for a very long time, but it was through the practicing and continuing to talk about it and continuing to work with it and practicing what I preach that I began to embody and actually start to practice that. Meaning, that became right. That's the journey of this. It isn't about just listening to people like me or reading the books or doing the healings. All of that is great. All of that is supportive to your frequency and the people you surround yourself with, all important things, right? But if you don't start putting this practice into work every day, into every part of your actual reality, your everyday reality, then you're not going to change anything. And that's where people fall off the map. I can't tell you how many courses and experiences I've held, free and paid, where halfway through I lose a lot of people. Why? Because they can't stay consistent with their actions. And we have developed, like I said in the beginning, spirituality is starting to become a new religion where there's all these rules and there's all these practices. Spirituality is a practice of mindfulness. It is you becoming aware, right? So you have to practice it. You have to practice your consciousness. And that means presence. That means being present with yourself. It means being present with your emotions, your discomfort, your pain, all of it. You know, the guides talk a lot about New Earth. And, there's a lot of, I talk a lot about New Earth and what that is. And it is a frequency, right? So if we want to label it further, it is the fifth dimensional frequency. But in order to sustain that level of frequency, right? That frequency is always right here too, you guys. Dimensions are not locations. They are lenses of perceptions. They are different frequencies, like different radio stations. And they're all available right here, right now. There's nowhere you got to go. There's nothing you have to particularly do other than release the judgment. That's the only thing you really have to do. Release the judgment and be able to hold everything in totality. Living in totality. That means that you take the good with the bad. A balanced life is knowing that there's going to be good and bad. Look at our heartbeat. It goes like this. Why? Because if we were straight lined in peace all the time, We would not come here. That is how we are in non-physical. We would not come here. We would not do that. So our heartbeat, everything in reality, everything in this reality, right? This plane of existence that we're experiencing is always reminding you of the universal truth. It's never a straight line. You're never going to constantly be in a state of flow. You're never going to constantly be in a state of peace. You are going to have these fluctuations. You just get really good at not reacting and having that rigidness where it's sharp highs and sharp lows. It will be a flow of, yep, this is what we're experiencing now. Oh, yep, this is what we're experiencing now. And what the guides have always said, and it took me a really long time to get on board with this as well, but the sooner you just sit with the emotion that you're feeling, as soon as you acknowledge and take responsibility for what's coming up in your reality, and you accept it as this is what is, let me work with it. Let me see what it's teaching me. Let me see what it's wanting me to know. Let me see what it's wanting to share with me or trying to show me. And the next thing you know, you're already through it. That I struggled with that until 2019 when I started channeling the ancients, and the ancients came through and they brought through a modality for me to use. And it worked so well that I went on to develop it and offered it in a lot of my courses. And I still do, right? It's unity, reclamation, the energy matrix. I'll talk about those, the purification process. And this simple 4 frequencies to work with in order to move through anything and integrate it very quickly. And I started practicing it religiously, and it changed my life. And I think a lot of people struggle with the simplicity of it because humans are conditioned to believe that life is hard, right? That we have to work hard, that everything has to be difficult. But the important thing about the frequencies were is I could use them in my everyday life. I could integrate this teaching into everything I was doing, being a mom, being a teacher, a way shower, whatever, a friend. I could integrate them in everything I was doing. I could use them constantly. I didn't need to sit down for an hour every day to practice this. Yes, there are times when we have to do those extra steps. But if your tools aren't helping you to live a human life, you're missing the point. You're meant to have a human experience and to bring your consciousness into it. So something that I recently shared in the energy matrix. Actually, it wasn't in the energy matrix. It was with a private client. But I will be utilizing it in my embodiment sessions. And I'm thinking about doing a program for it, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, so just to give you a sneak peek of this, sorry, you guys are going to have gingers trying to get all up in my business right now. Again, we went like this, right? We saw how we weave in and out. But if we look at this journey and what we came here to do, the human is the scoop of karma. It is the human aspects are made up of a scoop of karma of our ancestral lineage. That is what the human aspects or, parts of ourselves, here we go, she's like determined, are made up of. They are not who you are, not one bit. Okay. It's really important for you guys to hear that. The human aspects of you are not who you are. They are characters. They are roles. They are built upon the karma that you scooped up when you came in and the ancestral lineage that you chose. No, ma'am, you have to get down. There's no room up here. It's not like my old desk. So here we go, right? So here's we're going to say is the 0 point field. And here's what happens. The human resides in these lower frequencies, right? And so the human vessel is always trying to ascend up towards the light. It's in the dark. It's trying to ascend up to the light. The soul is always trying to descend into the body, hoping that you guys both meet at that 0 point field and begin to work together. So as light, so we're always doing this, no matter what. No matter what, there's always this. The human is trying to ascend, the soul's trying to descend constantly. And when everything that you do, everything that you say, everything that you act on, everything that you do in your life is either going to be showing you where you are repressing or expressing your divine light. Always. Thank you for the roses. So always. So what does that mean? That means that you're learning not to connect outside of you, not to channel because the answers are outside of you, but you're learning to connect to those aspects of you that are higher dimensional. You're learning to connect to your galactic selves, your angelic selves, your higher selves. Not just connect to them, but to embody them. And what does that mean? It means to bring that energy, that consciousness into your body. That's what that means. To bring it inside of you, because you are the universe within the universe. And if you're not bringing it within you, then you're never going to have true understanding of it. So there's a lot of people that say that's still astral traveling, that's still connecting to the universe. It's not the same. Because when you embody something, that means you have practiced it so much that you become it. It's not that you heard it or sensed it or went out into the ethers and experienced it. You've lived it. You lived it. You understand it. You understand it. Thank you for the gifts, you guys, on TikTok. Appreciate you. You understand it. Understanding creates compassion, which opens your heart, and you understand why you're having an experience. When you don't understand something, you go into fear. So you want to approach everything with curiosity. You want to approach everything with wonder and say, I wonder what this is going to feel like. I wonder what this is going to be like. Instead of bracing for impact, instead of judging it, instead of being afraid of it because you don't understand it, be willing to experience it. You don't understand how roller coasters work, but many people still get on them. Why? Because they enjoy the experience. There's a lot of things that humans do to enjoy the experience. No, ma'am. I'm so sorry, you guys. She is just next level wanting attention right now. So you're distracting me, baby. You're distracting me. Let me see if I can get that stream of consciousness back. You feel irritated and angry. What do you feel irritated and angry about? What is irritating and angering you? Because that's going to show you where you are not in agreement with something. That's going to show you where that your body is saying, this is not okay. This is not an experience that we want to have. This is something that is not okay. It needs to be reconciled inside of you. What needs to be reconciled inside of you so that you no longer are experiencing that and having to do that? Because here's what happens. A lot of times people store that. Where do we store our anger and our irritation? We store it in our liver, in our kidneys. The liver is the filter of the body. It's the filter of life. And if you guys have read my book, you'll know I talk a little bit about the emotional digestion cycle. We're always ingesting and digesting everything, whether it's food or not, because everything's energy. And when we don't deal with the things as they come, I'm going to get to I got guides want me to tell me something. I'm going to get to that. If you don't experience the emotions and deal with the energies as they come, you start to store them and carry them to deal with them at another time. But generally, most people never deal with them at another time. So they start to be expressed in an unhealthy manner. And when that means there's outbursts, you start to have physical illnesses and disease in the body. You don't want to repress things, but most humans have a ton of repressed energy. So we're already trying to work through the shit that we stored in our body because as children, we didn't know how, or we weren't given the tools, right? So we already come when we hit this stage of our awakening, we're already loaded up with trauma in our body that we're trying to work with. So we don't want to take any more. And I'll tell you what the guys are chiming in on right now. It's like what I'm going through. I'm moving into sustaining higher frequencies. And for those who've been following along on my journey, my world is collapsing all around me. I am going to be a digital nomad, and I'm in the middle of packing up my house. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't know what's going to happen next. And I'm not afraid of that. It doesn't bother me. Everything around me has been collapsing. And 98% of the time that has been happening, and this started in the end of November, beginning of December, and it's been going on ever since. And I don't know fully how to describe the transition that I know that I'll be guiding more of you guys through in the future. But I'm working my way through it right now to understand it. But here's what I can tell you is you can't take anything with you. If you want to sustain 5D, you can't take anything with you. And I'm talking about you can't take anything with you. You can't take anything with you. If I try to take emotions forward, they break me. If I don't deal with them right as they come and process them, and I try to carry them forward like the human has been conditioned to for years, it literally breaks me. The emotions just completely consume me and stop me. And so it's happened 3 times in this experience. And I learned very quickly, I can't take nothing with me. I have to deal with it as it comes. I have to make peace with it as it comes. I have to reconcile it as it comes. There is no more powering through. There is no more just full speed ahead. Let me take a pill for that. Let me shove that down. Let me distract myself. Let me get back to that. You can't do that anymore. You can't carry anything in 5D. And you can't take the old baggage with you. So right now I have, hi Heidi. Thank you for the love. But it's been this is the crazy part, right? I'm so glad that I've been doing this work for this amount of time, because I've had more peace and joy and happiness in these 3 months of conscious collapse than I ever have in my entire life. Isn't that insane? To think that we can actually have and live our best lives while the shit is burning down around you. To not be affected by the external and choosing your frequency. That's something that I've been teaching for a long time. And I have finally reached just a space of embodiment of that, because do I still have moments where the energy takes me over and I have to process? Absolutely. But that will always be. Again, I had to learn really quick that I can't take it with me. I had to stop what I was doing, and I had to sit and I had to process whatever was coming up. If I'm angry, I'm angry. Anger is here. Anger has come to my door, is knocking and says, you're upset about something. What are you upset about? It's time for us to look at this. It's time for us to work with this. If you are, sad or depressed, there's a video that gets circulated around that always comes back to me from Jim Carrey, who said that depression is a state of deep rest, where your soul is sick of playing the human roles that you keep wanting to play. The body just says, no, we're not going to cooperate anymore. We're ready to go to that next level. Would you stop playing this role? We're tired of being this person. So if you are in a state of depression where you just have no energy and no lack, you need to look at yourself and say, what am I doing? How am I being that I'm just so tired of, that I don't want to do it anymore? You're tired of it. What are you tired of? Everything's a metaphor. Everything's always speaking to you. But this is, again, I hope that, if anything, I hope that you guys, me being vulnerable enough and transparent enough to share what's happening in my life, I hope that it teaches you that it doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a divorce. It doesn't matter if we're at war. It doesn't matter if your business is failing and nobody's buying. It doesn't matter if you lost your job. It doesn't matter if your home is burning down around you. Those are just insignificant things. Are you going to allow it to dictate your state of being? And this is why I am constantly teaching people, you got to learn to manage your energy. You got to learn how to do it so it doesn't take over you. So that your body doesn't take over and say, we're going to shut you down because you won't listen. You're too busy wanting to blame and be a victim. You're too busy just wanting to projectile vomit it out because it's a poison eating at you and you won't just sit and be with it. You won't choose. You won't choose to open your heart and feel it. You can't only open your heart when it's good. If you build a dam, it's going to block everything, not just what you don't want. So how do we move forward? We open ourselves up and remember that it's okay to feel everything, that you have to feel everything. You didn't come here just to have a feel-good experience. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come here. You would not have come here. Thank you guys for the gifts. I appreciate you so much. Let me see, I can't read. I went through the same thing. It's true. Things are just things, and some things bigger is at hand. Always. Oh, love, I'm so sorry you're wanting to cry constantly. Cry. Do you guys know that one of my favorite things to do is just to drive? As a human, my favorite thing to do is to drive. You know why? It keeps my ego super busy. It's busy keeping me alive. And I could be listening to Tupac, I swear to God. I could be listening to Tupac and I will just start sobbing for no reason. Something wrong. But I'm just in a state of a wide open heart that I gave myself an opportunity to release and express, and that's what happens. And I don't judge myself for doing it. People probably look at me and think I'm crazy. I don't care. Be sitting there rapping to Tupac, who is like my favorite person, and bawling like a baby. Is it possible for babies that are being born in today's world can speak Lyran light language or other light languages and not know it? Babies all speak light language. You guys, we think it's gibberish. It's light language. You know, again, for anybody who feels called to take Unity Reclamation or the full Energy Matrix experience, it will change your life because you will learn the true chakra system and not the crap that the spiritual communities put out forever. And you will understand how our chakras are developed, and you will understand that the first 7 years of a baby's life are the most critical. They are in a theta state. That whole 7 years, they are in a theta state. They are being hypnotized and programmed. The first 7 years, your root chakra is developed and you are hypnotized and programmed. You are super close to source. You have no auric field of your own. You are completely in the mother's auric field, and everything is being programmed. But if you listen to a child in the first 7 years, usually 7 years is stretching it because by 4 or 5, most of that programming of the caregivers is already taken hold. But if you listen to a child in the first few years of their life, they will tell you everything you ever want to know. They are connected to source still in a way that the only way you will understand is when you touch that celestial milk yourself through meditation, through plant medicine, through near-death experience. They are still so connected. And so, yes, they speak light language. You can ask them anything. Kids know everything. And we think that we know everything and we want to keep them safe. All we do is program them with fear. This is why it's important to allow kids to do crazy shit in safe spaces. You want to know why? Because we have to stop indoctrinating them with fear. To stop teaching don't do that, don't do that. That's our fear. We got to quit projecting our fear onto our children. Working on your cobwebs. Work on them cobwebs, girl. She feels her son is taking. I'm sure he is. I don't know if it's Lyran or not. I would have to hear it. But we each have our own light language. So nobody's even ever heard me speak my personal light language. We all have our own language. Um, I've never shared my language, my private language with anybody. That's for me. I speak whatever light language wants to come through as long as the energy is of the highest, purest light. Um, so when you guys have heard me speak light language, ate ke ene se ke ene a sona ala ate e se ke ene o sono o shoto ka ana ala e se ke ne e sono o se ke ne e la asala o shotoko. Apparently, we're just going to speak it. It's a culmination of different guides. So whoever's stepping forth right now, the most I'm speaking is Andromedan. But they work as a one collective field, and different ones will come in at different points and take point of the energy. And so oftentimes when I do big healings, there will be different dialects that come through, different tones that will come through, and they're just activating and aligning different things. So how does that work? Light language is compromised of tone, frequency, sound, sacred geometry, cosmic information, and it bypasses the logical brain, and it allows it to be received directly into the heart. But it's a frequency that's being offered. What we're doing is we're reminding your energy field, oh yeah, this is the frequency. So what we're doing is we're offering the frequency as a healer who uses tone and sound. We're offering that frequency, and we're allowing your energy field to resonate with it and go, oh, that's the frequency. So if you're in a room full of tuning forks and you hit the A, they're all going to start speaking it. They're all going to tune to A. So when you're getting a healing, when you're working with somebody, when you're working with me in a private session, even if we're not doing energy work, there's a realignment that's always happening. And what's happening is we're offering you that frequency. We're reminding you this is where this frequency is that you're seeking. Your job is to tap into that feeling, to know what it feels like in your body so that you can come back to that resonant field. But if you're not present, and if you're not in your body, and you're not exploring the sensations and learning to read your body, learning to read your energy, learning to be present and to listen to how the body speaks, it's really hard for you to remember how to get back to that. So if I said to you, how do you feel peace? What does peace feel like in your body? What does anger feel like in your body? Do you know what those feel like? Can you align to that? Can you tap back in and remember that? That's what we want. She got goosebumps in a good way. That's good. We did a little throat clearing. I could literally feel we were pulling some stuff out. Babies are such a gift. All the babies born recently, especially from 2020 on, they're more crystalline in nature. And if you look back, you can actually see it. You know, the millennials get a lot of shit, but you see Gen X. Gen X was really like the beginning of where people really started to embody more light. And then you can see the progression, right? So the Gen Xers are a lot of the, what I call the elders. Like we've been on this journey, for a long time. And so we're more embodied in that way, but that doesn't make us better than anyone coming on who's just waking up. You could literally wake up last week and know everything or nothing, because that's what happens. The more you channel and the more aware you become, the more conscious you become, the more you understand that you don't really know anything. I hardly ever remember anything anymore. I don't need to. I just tap into my well of wisdom, and everything I need is access. I don't have to carry it forward. Does that make some of the human things a little inconvenient? Like, did I take that supplement? Yeah, because I lose memory. I don't hold memory anymore in the same way that I did. But you don't have to take anything. That's what I'm saying. You don't take anything with you. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. I don't even know what we're talking about. I lost that stream of consciousness. My guides know when I am choosing and when to level me up, and it's happening. Oh, your guides will always well, okay. They're saying no, we won't. If you get too far off your path, we will come in and realign you. And this is often what many will experience as like, we call it the tower card moment, where you have something that happens. So an accident happens, an illness happens, um, a relationship suddenly ends, something usually dramatic is experienced. That is a divine realignment. And they can get a little crazier. But for the most part, your guides won't interfere unless you ask them for help. And when you ask them for help, whether you realize it or not, it is in your field. The problem and the solution have to exist at the same time. This is really important for a lot of people who have never heard me say this before. But the problem and the solution exist simultaneously, always. There's never a time when they do not exist simultaneously. It's a matter of you can't seek and receive at the same time. You have to either be heart open, willing to take it all in, or your energy's out seeking. You can't do both at the same time. You just can't. So you have to allow yourself to be open to receiving the answer and the solution. And if you're not getting it, they're saying it's oftentimes it's the expectation. It's not that you're not getting it. It's not the answer you want. That's true. That's what they're saying, is it's not always the answer that you want. And because it doesn't match your expectations, you're like, I'm not going to entertain that. You have no other choice, right? You have no other choice. Because you had an idea in your head of how this is supposed to go, how this world was supposed to be, how your life was supposed to go. I can definitely resonate with that. But, and it's true. And so it's not that the answer isn't there. It's just, we have an expectation of what we want the answer to be. And so we don't give attention to anything else. We're waiting for that one thing to be validated. And it often doesn't happen. So we think, we're just not getting the answer. It's not meant for us. No, let go of the expectation and just be curious to what it could be or what the solution could be. But what they say is that they're always putting it in your field. They'll keep putting it in your field and keep giving you the breadcrumbs until you either see it or you no longer need it. That's what they always say. So, but if you want help, you have to ask. And please do not buy into any spiritual leader who tells you that asking for help, needing assistance, asking for validation is a bad thing. If you're talking to your guides and you're listening to your intuition and you're using your body and you're using your discernment, you're doing fine. If you are constantly needing to get readings or constantly needing another person to validate you, then you need to start working on your own trust. And your own discernment and your own ability to read and discern your energy, because that's it right there. Like, the more you trust yourself, the more you will do the craziest shit, and you will walk in faith, and you will be okay with your world collapsing around you, because you're like, I'm going to be okay. It's going to be better than ever. Because here's the thing. I'm not available for not being supported in this life. I'm not available for it. I'm not available for not being fully supported to do this work. If I'm going to bring people through what I'm going through right now, the way, and if I'm going to continue to bring people through the things that I have gone through in the past, with the wisdom, not just the channeled information, but the wisdom that I have from going through that experience and what works and what didn't work and how to use the frequencies and how to rebuild your trust and what true boundaries are and all of those things, I'm not going to do it without fully being supported. And all the ways that looks, I'm just not available for it. Being a wounded healer is not something that I'm going to do. We all have the ability of being supported. And more than ever before, I have realized that is simply just a belief. It's simply just a belief. You have to believe with everything in your being that it's going to work out for you, that it's what you're available for and what you're not available for, right? I am only available to be fully supported in this life, to do this work. Otherwise, why am I here? Because I am very mission oriented. I came here to explore Earth. I honestly, if I could live in the woods and just not have to, if I wasn't going to be of service, put it that way, if I didn't have such a strong desire to be of service, I would go move off grid in 2 seconds and not show up online ever again and just be with nature, because those are the only reasons why I'm here, to touch, smell, taste, explore, be with in a physical way nature, because you can't you will never understand until you do what a gift it is to be on this earth plane, what a gift it is to feel wind on your face, to feel the sun penetrating your skin, to feel the earth. You just won't until you don't have it anymore. So that and my being of service and being on mission, those are why I'm here. And so if I'm going to continue this and I'm going to stay forward, and a lot of people we've witnessed, there's a lot of death and divorce happening this year, right? I've said that many times. This year is death and divorce. What's the flip side of that? Union with self. Union with self. Because the parts of you that you can't take are dying. They're not really dying. They're going home. They're integrating. And you're never, ever separating. You're always getting closer to self. You're always coming into union with yourself. This is why I call these cosmic conversations, because when they're quantum, they're all over the place. All over the place. Let me see. Good morning, Sonia. I know, Sonia, you just have weather where you can be out in nature more. I just don't do the cold, and it's so cold here. It is like, it just, nature reminds us of simplicity. And I always say, if you're having a bad day, go watch the sunset. You want to know why? Because it's magic. You're watching magic. You're just watching it. You can't make that happen. That's why I don't like to use the word grateful. Grateful implies almost like gaslighting, that you should be this way because of other things happening in the world. No, F that. We don't live like that anymore. Appreciate. Appreciate. I want to see things that and appreciate them for the magic that they are, to witness what they are. I want to appreciate. So whenever I have programming that comes up, anytime that there's lack of anything, I think about the things that I appreciate that I won't have. The only place I can have them is here. So anyway, I know I've been all over the place. How are you guys doing? How are you guys handling all of this intensity? I have to leave the house I am in. I have no idea where I'm going, and I'm excited about it. No fear. Yeah, isn't it a cool experience, Corey? It is. It's such a cool experience. You know, I kind of get giddy when I think about it, and I think about, I don't know what's next for me. I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't know where I'm going to travel. I don't know. I'm going to have to change the way I run my business, and I can't prepare for that. You know, so many people want to be prepared. What's coming so I can know what to do and how to do it. And trust me, I have moments where I'm the same way. And I'm like, you know, if you just kind of give me the stuff, the plan, I swear I'll stick to it. But here's the thing, we don't. This is why I quit doing psychic readings. Want to know why? Because when you tell someone what's coming, their ego grabs a hold of it and is like, okay, now that we know, we're back in control, we'll take it over from here. And you end up doing things that don't lead you to the place that you were supposed to be in to begin with. Nobody thinks about that. I am on edge. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Feel your feet. In fact, let's all do that. Let's put our feet on the ground. Obviously, if you're driving, improvise. Put your feet on the ground, flat. Feel where your body connects to the chair. Feel where your body connects, where it touches anything right now. Just notice the connection. Notice your breath. As you breathe in and out, can you feel the rise and fall of your chest? Can you feel the rise and fall of your belly? Take a deep, deep, deep breath. And on the exhale, with pierced lips, blow out nice and slow. Till you have no breath left. Oshoko eke se ne ata osho sono ese ke ne se ke shine o sono o se ne eke ne e se ne a. Oshoko no ose e ne aso shono. O shono ose ke ne e se ne le ke ne oso shoto. Oh, shono sono. Feel that warmth as that energy settles down. Oh, shokene o sene e sekene me o shoto sono. Oh, shokona o se kene e sene e shine a. Settle your energy. Someone just commented something on TikTok, and we got some. The guides are chiming in. Sorry, my human brain doesn't like to work all the time when I'm half channeling. Whoever or whatever is ruling your head, consuming your mind. I think we talked about this, guys that are in the YouTube membership. I think we talked about this. Whatever is consuming your mind, whoever keeps showing up in your mind or whatever keeps showing up in your mind is your programmer. Just think about that for a second. So are you constantly thinking about your ex? Are you constantly thinking about your job? Are you constantly thinking about the government? Are you constantly thinking about money? Is there a person that constantly comes up in your energy? Is there a limiting belief that constantly comes up over and over again? What is the thing that is your programmer? Who is your programmer? So do you ask? And you guys can answer me. When you guys have limiting beliefs, when you have lack thoughts, when you have fear-based moments, do you ask, where did this come from? Do you ask who installed this? Do you ask, do I even believe this? Do you ask these questions? Does anybody ask these questions? Inquiry. This is like spiritual 101, inquiry, mindfulness, right? Being curious. Where the F did this come from? So how many ask those questions? How many dig a little deeper and say, I'm not just going to keep having this thought and fighting with the thought. I can accept that I have the thought. I accept that I have the thought. I accept that I'm in fear right now. I accept that I feel lack right now. It's okay. I'm taking responsibility by acknowledging it and saying, I see you. Now let's get curious. Let's get curious. Yeah, when you have a lot going on at the same time, someone says divorce, maintenance, criminal case, all of this at once, letting go. It's hard when it comes in all at once, but sometimes we have to have it all collapse around us so that we will surrender at a new level, right? So this past week, I've lost, I know 7 people who have died in 3 weeks. And a couple of them were people that I have known for quite a while. One of them was a friend that died this week. She took me by surprise. She caught me off guard. I did not. Some people call me the death doula because I always seem to know when people are going to die. I always seem to know when it's coming. But sometimes we're not meant to know because we have to be blindsided by it because it will open our heart up to a new level. It will make us stop and surrender at a deeper level. I recently had someone reflect back to me how impressive my level of surrender is because they're witnessing me go through. If anybody was to who is active in my everyday life would know that what's going on is pretty crazy on a human level, and it makes no logical sense why it's happening. And she was reflecting back to me how impressed she was at the deep level of surrender and faith that I have put into the universe. At the same time, I was judging myself saying, I'm not surrendering enough, right? Isn't it crazy how our perceptions from other people can change? It can offer you a perspective. This is why I'm saying It's not always a bad thing when someone offers their perception of you. It may not be your truth, but it may also be a level of truth that you weren't even aware of yourself. So it can go either way, right? Some people can offer you a perception of yourself and you'd be like, I'm not like that. But it really depends on how they're looking at you. How clean is their vessel? How clean is their energy? This is why I don't just teach spiritual development. If I'm going to teach it like I did in the energy matrix, I'm going to teach you from the ground up. I'm going to teach you how to read your body. I'm going to teach you how to work with your aura. I'm going to teach you how to manage your energy so when situations go to shit, you're not rocked by it. I'm going to teach you how to build your dictionary and how to trust yourself so that when you start doing spiritual work in a mission form, right, for other people, you trust what you get. When you go into the Akashic realm, when you do mediumship, when you do healing, you trust it. Why? Because you trust yourself. You have to work through the fears in between those two, too. I won't just teach spiritual development for that reason because there's too many people walking around in fear. Their lenses are muddied, they're not clear channels. Anybody can read energy, but what are you reading and how are you reading it from? Are you reading it from your heart? Are you reading it from clean energy? Have you worked with your energy, or is your energy filled full of shit right now because you didn't know how to manage it and you're leaking everywhere and you've taken on the collective's pain and anger, or your child's problem, or your spouse's problem, or because you've let your mind get you out of control? Like, so when someone's giving you their judgment or their perception or sharing their truth, they're seeing it through the lens of their own wounds and their own limiting beliefs. Always. It's your choice to replace your own truth with that, you know? But she offered that reflection, and I was like, it's so interesting how you see me, and it is so in awe of my level of surrender. For me, I'm a high achiever. One of my wounds is high expectations of myself and my abilities. I'm always striving to be better than I was yesterday. I'm not in competition with anybody else. Trust me, my biggest competition is me. I don't, Corey Johnston says, I don't like knowing what's coming because I can feel my ego take over. Now I know why I do that and what I do. Isn't that great? Yeah. So most days I'm excited. I'm excited for what's coming. I don't know where I'm going to be, but you know what? I am somebody who has always lived very spontaneously up until I moved to North Carolina. I've always been a spontaneous person by nature, someone who loved adventure, and my adventure kind of died when I came here because I stopped being me. I was a chameleon, and I became who others people wanted me to be. And I lost a lot of people the day I said, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to dim my light. I'm just going to be who I am. And if people don't like it, too bad. I'll find my people. And I haven't found all of my people yet. I found some of them, but I haven't found them all because there's a reorganization that has to happen. And there has to be a space where there's a pullback where you have to really get comfortable with yourself. You have to really get comfortable with your own freak flags, and you have to be able to own it and feel good and not find yourself adjusting. So the first time I went on a date, I think it's, I don't know, a month ago now. Um, it was right the weekend before Valentine's Day. I went on a date, and it's the first date I have been on since I left my husband and got divorced. So it's been 2 years. And I was very interested because he's what I would call a muggle. He's not spiritual, he's not open, he's not self aware, but I wasn't going to judge a book by its cover. I was going to try it anyway. So I went and I went on the date, and I just was myself, and it made him very uncomfortable. It made him super uncomfortable. And we did not talk again. And I was okay with that. I was okay with that because I, I'm not trying to fit into anyone's world. I am my world. I'm not trying to fit in anywhere. I don't need to fit in. Belonging is to get into a box. I don't want to belong. I want to shine. I want my friends that are surround me and the people who surround and support me to amplify me. I want them to want to share me, to share my work, to share my joy, to say, "Oh, I have this friend you have to meet." I want people to amplify me. Thank you, Sonia. Hi, Tammy. Sonia says, I've been getting sucked in to some of the negativity, and I remind myself to step out of the matrix and be the observer, not a participant. Yeah. I mean, it happens. It's going to happen. Every now and then I'll get sucked in to the matrix with the world. I did a post on my personal page yesterday, and I had a very intense moment of clarity when I was channeling, and you know, I quit listening to alternative news because even that is a lot of fear based. And I get my information very limited of to the events that are taking place because I don't want to see the story and the narrative. I don't want to play into that. And so I really was like, okay, like I think I know on a I'm mindful enough to know what's going on in the world with this war and all this other stuff. But I said, I really want, I've been asking for a few days, like, I really want to see with absolute clarity my role in this. And so I shared what my universe showed me, what my world showed me with the world. And it also was kind of a declaration that I'm just not going to entertain it anymore. I mean, I'll still talk about it on a professional level because this is what I'm helping people work through, right? But I was like, no, I'm just not going to entertain this anymore because it's getting just so ridiculous. Um, but if you're not, and we're not going to be present all the time, we're not going to be in awareness 100% of the time. Not that that's not possible, it is, but it's very rare. So we're going to have moments where we're kind of caught off guard, and it is in those moments where we get to say, "Oh, I'm getting caught up in this." And what my guides like to say is, "It's okay to play," which is going to sound it was so weird to me, but it's like it's okay to play that role. If one day you're feeling like you're supposed to play the role of the villain, play the villain. If one day you feel your role is to share something and to point something out, maybe there's a bigger reason behind it. The important thing is to recognize that you're playing a role for a purpose and to check in with where you're coming from. So where it comes from is important. If you're playing that role and it's coming from a place of fear, if I don't convince the world that this war is not real, if I don't convince the world that the pandemic isn't real, then I'm not going to be safe. If I don't prove my point and I don't get everybody on board, it's not safe. Proving, defending, all come from fear. But if you're in your heart space and you're like, listen, I don't really care what you believe. I don't really care if you agree with me or not. I'm just going to share what my universe has to say from a very detached, loving place. Then do it. Because we do have people who are here to awaken. We do have people who are here to trigger. We do have people who are here to play those roles. We all have roles to play. But it says it in that phrase, roles to play. You're playing. So you can just be like, oh man, that was a good game the universe just played, like that, or the dark, or whatever you want to call them, right? Oh, I got caught up in that. Woo! Let me take a breath. Laugh at yourself. Be like, man, it takes a lot of work to play in that energy. Think about how exhausted you are. I know for me, when I've gotten caught up in it and gotten in the energy of defend and prove, which still happens from time to time, it's exhausting. It drains you like super fast. Super fast. And then when you do, you attract all the people that want to fight and prove. So everybody bombards your thread and is like, you're wrong. Show me the proof. And you're just like, oh God. So I get reminded very quickly, right? So within, so without. So just recognize that you're playing and laugh at it and just be like, I'm playing again. It's all right. We don't have to play that anymore. I'm done with that. I don't want to play that game. We're good. And just move on. But it does happen. But the thing is we got to stop judging ourselves, and we have to be like, have compassion and grace for ourselves, right? And that was a big thing for this week, was grace and compassion. That was a big thing. We talked a lot about it in the membership. My love life is non-existent. Welcome to the club. Thanks also to my awareness. Thanks also to my awareness, which I don't regret. You're not the only one going through that. I feel my counterpart is on Mars or Jupiter or something really far. Oh my God. Well, if you truly believe that, tap into that energy. You guys, I teach it in Energy Matrix to teach you how to channel the planets, but that might maybe is where the home origin or that where that energy is. But what that's going to tell you, if that's what you really believe, so there is life on Mars, there is life on other planets in our solar system, but they aren't seen by the physical eye or by science's telescopes because they reside in another frequency. They reside in another frequency that we can't see on just another frequency. But there is life there. So what that tells me, if we're looking at it metaphorically, is that your soulmate or the person that you're feeling, it lives in another frequency. Not necessarily that they're on Mars or Jupiter, but their frequency is higher. And that doesn't mean that you're not where you're supposed to be. It means that you just have to do the work to get to a higher frequency, to embody a higher frequency. But you never know. Just play in it. But yeah, my love life is non-existent. But I'll tell you what, a lot of that is my own doing because I won't settle, and dating is exhausting. Small talk, humans like small talk. And I hate to sound like this, and I don't mean it from a hierarchical or egoic place because I am no better than anybody. I'm not specialer than you. We all have our own gifts and abilities. But I just don't operate majority of my life from a human consciousness anymore. And so small talk is quite painful. And I just know that I will meet the person that I'm meant to be, probably at a retreat or in an event or something that is like-minded, where we have physical interaction and we're chatting and getting to know each other. Dating apps, I play on them because I'm playing. I want to see who I'm attracting. I want to practice my interactions with humans and being able to not change who I am, not lower my frequency, not lower my way, but be able to speak to them differently. So take high esoteric concepts and make them human, to be able to read other people and say, okay, where is this person at? And how can I express what I do or what I'm saying? And it's also to see, and this is something that was new. So one of the apps that I am on is Hinge. And there is actually a lot more conscious people on there than I would have ever thought. So I was pleasantly surprised at how many healers and way showers are actually on these apps. They're hard to find because, again, most of us who are conscious and self-aware, right, forget spiritual. And it's become a fad word at this point. Again, they don't want small talk either. They don't, it's just a drain. It's just a drain. You're only ever going to attract, though. So I challenge you. I challenge you to change your words. Dating apps are the worst. I attract the worst low vibration. What you speak is what you're putting out into the world. So speak in solution, speak in affirmation. This is why I'm always telling people, don't say your mantra is I'm no longer available for. The universe doesn't speak no. It doesn't speak negative connotation. It doesn't understand that. I don't think dating apps are the best, but the reason why I use them to see what I'm attracting is because you're only ever going to attract your state of being. So in my channeling on Monday, I believe it was, in the YouTube membership, which you guys can sign up if you like this kind of stuff. I do it. I tend to do it more in my membership. Hold on, I'll come back. Oh, how so many people are getting caught up on the word empath and how it's becoming a fad too to be an empath. But really, an empath is just a label, right? When your heart opens, it's not that you feel everybody else's shit. They are just mirroring back to you what you are feeling inside of you that you're not willing to feel voluntarily on your own doing and being. And I know that's really hard for people to understand, but it basically means you won't feel anything that you aren't a resonant match for. You won't feel anything that doesn't live inside of you. So if you're attracting a lot of angry people, there's a good chance that you have a lot of repressed anger that you're not looking at. If you, it's not that you're taking on other people's emotions. You can do that, right? It's important to discern, but you're only going to ever feel what's a resonant match in you. So this is why when you do your work and you sit with those emotions and you integrate them into your heart space, you can now go around and be around people who are narcissistic and angry and violent and it not affect you whatsoever because you've done your work to reconcile that inside of you. So empath is not a curse or necessarily a gift. What it says is, guess what? Your heart's opening to more than it was before. And now everyone else around you that you think you're feeling is just offering you the frequency that is inside of you that is dominant right now that you're not willing to look at on your own. And it really was kind of mind-blowing because when they said it that way, because I've been someone who has said for years, I don't do energy protection. You want to know why? Because the word protection implies that there's something that you don't want to feel. And if you don't want to feel something or experience something, that means you don't feel safe, which means your heart is closed. You can't unconditionally love or really, really love anything that you don't feel safe to open your heart to experience. So in order to love, you have to feel safe. Right? So if you're protecting your energy, you are saying that there is something unsafe and that you need to protect yourself. That means your heart isn't open. To live, to be multidimensional, to live in a state of totality, which is what is required to occupy 5D and above, the fifth frequency and above. You have to be willing to live in totality. You have to be willing to feel it all. So if you think that you're empathic and somebody you don't like to feel that, just recognize that when you're feeling that, you're also feeling your own stuff. And this is why I teach what I teach, because it's really important. It's really important for people to realize that. Yes, you do need to learn energetic boundaries and you do need to learn discernment and how to manage your energy so that you're not wide open and leaking everywhere. This is why most people are having so much anxiety right now and why people are all over the place and their emotions are like a roller coaster from hell because they don't know how to manage their energy or their frequency. And it's not something I can teach you guys in a short live. It's a full course that you've got to practice. Yeah, I don't like the bubbles either, Sonia. But there's always, so here's the thing. If you're somebody who believes in energy protection and you're someone who's practicing that, that might be where you are right now. And in order for you to function, you may need to bubble up. You may need to protect your energy, but it's not serving you. You're not going to move forward. You're not going to evolve and grow until you're ready to break free of that and start experiencing some of those frequencies, right? But I felt the same way. I felt suffocated, Sonia. I felt suffocated. I felt disconnected. I didn't like it. So when the guides Metatron, I worked with Master Metatron I mean, he's always with me, but I worked with him for a very long time. And one of the very first things that he taught me was, what are you protecting yourself from? I am you, you are me. You're only ever going to attract your state of being, your frequency, your dominant one. And and I used to think, what? And then they're like, your dominant frequency isn't what you think you're putting out. It isn't the fake bubble personality that you're trying to share anymore. It's that seething unconscious anger that's flowing that you're not even willing to look at. So when you want to know why you've been married 3 times to angry men or why you attract all these angry people, it's because you would not acknowledge the anger that is dormant, but is also the most controlling part of your field. He said, you're a cloud. Allow energy to move through you like a cloud in the sky. Just allow it to move. Stop grabbing on. Stop trying to grab on for safety or say, don't do this. Energy protection and people that teach it, it's one of the things that will slow you down the most. But if that's where there was a time where I taught it too. It was very early on in my journey. And the more aware I became, the more conscious I became, the more open I became to understanding how the universe works and how energy works, the more I realized that was actually keeping me stuck more than anything. I had to be willing to feel it all. And this is where you see a lot of isolation and where you see a lot of people start losing relationships because you're like, okay, I have to take this in small doses. I'm not saying this is why I teach discernment and energy management, because it's you choosing to work with your field of energy instead of protecting your field of energy. It's creating the discernment to know the difference between where you end and where someone else's begins and what's actually happening in your field. Yeah, I don't do psychic attack either. Nobody can hurt you unless you allow them to. Nobody can hurt you unless you allow them to. If you believe that you can experience negative entities or dark entities or psychic attacks, what you believe will be. I mean, that's as simple as it is right there. What you believe will be. What you give your energy to. You have the power. You can change your beliefs at any time. Are there dark entities? Absolutely. But you know what most of them are? And this always blows people's mind. I did a whole video on YouTube about this a long time ago, but dark entities are aspects, human aspects that are built on karma and ancestral lineages that have been repressed, disassociated, distracted, whatever you want to call it, separated. There's been a separation and you're holding on to this energy. You're not fully letting it go. You're not accepting it. Because here's the thing. This is where our terminology gets confused. Why I don't like to say letting go anymore, because the only thing you're ever doing letting go of is control. So instead of accepting that there is a dark or lower vibrational or lower frequency part of your being and accepting that, you say, that's not good. That's not okay. That's not pleasant. I'm going to stay away from you. That creates a separation, but it also creates this tethering. And eventually that energy gets fed enough, more energy, because the more you don't, right? I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that. The more you focus on not feeling that, the more you're going to call that in, right? You're always manifesting. I'm the queen of saying that. It doesn't matter what you're doing or saying, you're constantly in a state of manifesting. So whatever you're focusing on, you're creating. So the more attention you give to what you don't want, the more you don't want comes into your life, right? So when you are disassociating or repressing or denying a part of your consciousness, a part of yourself, it creates its own entity. And eventually, if it's fed enough, it becomes to take on life. So that entity is now attached to you, because it's like now it's developed its full own personality. It's full. You've given it so much energy. It's taken on life. And you're like, oh my God, I have a dark entity. I have an attachment. It's your own attachment. It's your own attachment. Now, are there dark entities that are detached from humans that are from that? Absolutely. But again, you're only ever going to attract or call in what is a resonant match for you. So if you don't want that, then you need to manage your energy and manage your frequency, because otherwise you absolutely can take on those things. But that's a choice that you're making. My last spiritual coach kept telling me how much I needed to protect my energy, but I wasn't growing. Yeah. But this is why I'm saying, and this is why, when the guides said that yesterday, I was kind of taken aback, but they're like, you're not spiritual, Johanna. You're conscious. You're self-aware. And spirituality is a practice, but it's becoming a fad. It's becoming a thing. Let me, read cards, or let me meditate and do these things. But they're still they're not doing the work of mindfulness. They're not doing the work to ensure that they're channeling from their heart space. They're not doing the work to manage their energy. So you got to be discerning of who you're connecting to as well. Right? This is where you learn to trust yourself. Like, does that person resonate? I'll tell you, I hired a coach who was, God, when did I do this? I think it was 2017. I hired a coach who was pretty celebrity kind of status. He wasn't Jack Canfield, because I also worked with Jack Canfield, but he had a huge podcast. He had a huge following. You know, I resonated with a lot of what he had to say, but when I paid him, so I paid him in full for our private mentorship. After the second call, I was done. I said, I don't know who you're faking to be on social media, but who he was in real life to work with was not that. And you know, my intuition told me, you probably this is not the thing, but my ego got caught up in, oh, he's a big time, he has all these people, blah blah blah, and that was an expensive lesson, an expensive lesson. But I walked away. I didn't get a refund. I'm the same way. I don't have a refund policy. You have 7 days when you sign a contract with me if you're going to work a long time. And if 3 sessions in, your discernment says all of a sudden that you're not meant to work with me, that is, you can go, but I'm not going to give you a refund. My job is not to tell you you're supposed to work with me. My job is to trust that you are going to listen to your own discernment. And sometimes I have to be the villain who is the one who gives the lesson, you know? Right. Okay. So Corey says she was talking to a friend of mine yesterday about channelers can only give you information at the perspective that they're vibrating at. Yes and no. So I agree with you, but I want to the guides want to chime in on this because this is something that we talk about quite a bit. So if they're channeling from their heart space and they're truly channeling from their heart space, it doesn't matter what they're vibrating at on an everyday basis. Yes, they should have clean energy, but there are plenty of times when I have been struggling in my human life and I've been able to set that down and tap into my heart and feel on fire and amazing when I'm in a session because I'm literally getting all my energy from the divine. But here's where I want to kind of adjust what you're saying and offer a different perspective. So what the guides say is who, and this is something that I literally just finished channeling and teaching on in the energy matrix, which we finished, yay. Who you're channeling. Who are you channeling? So for me, right now, the dominant energy that is with me right now is my 10th dimensional Andromedan aspect. And that's not something I'm channeling outside of me. That is something I'm working on embodying. So I have a quantum embodiment technique that I use that has literally changed my life and allowed me to experience this level of surrender and joy and peace while my world is crumbling. It's been quite wonderful, actually. Sometimes the 12th dimensional Arcturians will come in. For all of 2020, I was working on embodying my 9th dimensional Pleiadian self. If I am channeling the ancients have their own filters. If I'm channeling the 10th dimensional Andromedans, they have their own filters. They have their own perspective of information. If I'm channeling, I see a lot of people who channel Ashtar. Ashtar is actually pretty low on the frequency scale. He is more humanoid than, so anything after the 7th dimension and above is non-physical. So Ashtar still has physicality, and instead of a non-physical, they're taking on more of a stellar body. So, who are you channeling? Who is that person channeling? That is where it's going to really also discern. So, as long as they're in a heart space and they know how to do the things to make sure that what they're bringing through is clean and clear, the next question you would want to ask is, who are you channeling? Because that person's going to have their own filters. So as I taught in the energy matrix, when I brought them into the Akashic realms, because my guides always say I have a very effective way of channeling energy. I don't want to be the vessel of the energy. I don't want to be the conductor of the energy all the time. That's really hard on my body. And I'm already working with my 10th dimensional aspect all the time. So I'm already bringing a lot of high frequency into my body. In the membership, you guys, I'm going to be talking about what I'm going through in the transition of becoming 5th dimensional. And it's crazy the things that have been happening in my physical body. So I will be sharing that in the membership soon. But here's the thing. So when I was teaching it, I have certain things that I do to make sure that I can conduct the energy and that there's no filters. So when you work with the Akashic realms, there are librarians that is their job in the universe. It's to be the librarians of different libraries. So there's an Earth library, there's Alcyon, which is in the Pleiades, which is basically the main library. The sun has its own library. And then there's galactic libraries. And so if you're connecting with and you have met your librarian and you're connecting to your librarian, they don't have filters. They don't have filters. And so their information is pure. But when I'm channeling, like, say, the Andromedans, that's still a perspective of the truth. It's not going to be the absolute 100% pure because it's a perception, right? Does it matter where we are vibrating at too? Yes and no. It is going to make a difference what your base frequency is. Obviously, if you're really in a third dimensional frequency where you're in lack and fear, you're not going to be able to open your heart, right? You're not going to be able to do that. So you have to be at a space where you can at least open your heart. So in that form, it does matter where we're vibrating to, right? So if you're channeling, if you are in a very low frequency, so if you're stuck in lack and fear, or even grief, you won't be able to open your heart and bring through what you're wanting to do. It just won't work. So, but if you're able to open your heart, right, you're able to get into even the higher realms of the fourth dimension, fifth dimensional frequencies. If you're willing to move up the frequency scale, if you're willing to get into a state of neutrality or peace, and then you can open your heart, then you can still do the work. So I would be going through periods of intense grief. When I was healing a lot of my grief, I wasn't doing any mediumship. I wasn't doing any at all. I could do readings. I could go into the Akash and I could open my heart and I could bring the information through. But if I had to work with somebody's loved one, I was not willing to open my heart for that. But again, that's because I know discernment so well. I've learned my energy and how to discern it very well. So it does depend. It's not an absolute yes or no answer to that. But of course, if you're in a low place, you really need to tend to your own energy. I wouldn't say go live and do a channeling. So yes, it's a yes and no. I mean, it's really, each person is going to know for themselves, right? But the guides really wanted to bring in that other perspective, because a lot of times I get people who say, how come the channelers are all different? Or some of them will say completely different things. Well, it depends, because who are they channeling? And whoever they're channeling has a lens of perspective, and they have their own limiting beliefs and their own, their own limitations. So it is a combination. I mean, as a client. As the client, make sure I'm getting this right. So if I'm giving you a reading, Sonia, it depends where you are too. Is that what you're saying? I just want to make sure I'm getting it right before I go on another tangent. Sorry, TikTok, if I have been ignoring you. What is a super ego? Okay. Yes. So Sonia makes a good point. She's saying if I'm giving Sonia a reading and Sonia's in a really bad space, is that going to affect things too? Absolutely. It's actually quite frustrating for me as a practitioner when someone comes in and they have a very closed off heart and they're wanting to test me, I don't really like that, because what I'm doing is I'm conducting energy or trying to bring energy through. I'm offering them a frequency. And this is why I always say we're offering it, right? When I do these not right now. There was moments during this broadcast where it was a transmission where I was channeling energy, but for the most part, when I do these, they're considered transmissions, and I'm offering a frequency on my words are light encoded. So I'm offering a frequency for your body to align to. But if I'm sending out that frequency and you got a wall up, I have to work harder to go this way, or I have to try to find the way in. So it can make it difficult. Not only that, but again, that person is looking for, it makes the reading more difficult. You got to be open. So yes, the answer is yes. So it's a yes or no across the board. Like, it does matter where your frequency is, but also, can you open your heart? Because again, we can live in totality. We can be having something super heavy. I had someone who bought a block of sessions, right? I think they bought 3 sessions. And they reached out to me and was like, oh, I haven't booked because I saw you were going through things in your life. Well, that doesn't matter for me. I'm very transparent. I try to keep a very open book for you guys, for the most part. I mean, I don't always tell you things until I've kind of gone through them, because I think that there's more integrity in doing that. But I said to her, it doesn't matter what I'm going through. If I can't work with you, I will tell you I'm not in a space to do so. But that's the thing. Like, you have to be able to discern, can I set this down and still open my heart? Or can I experience this pain with an open heart? Can I still experience this anger and still have an open heart? The answer is yes. Fear, judgment will close your heart. So it's really learning how those sensations show up in your body and how to work with them and how to hold space for them. So it's yes and a no across the board. So your frequency, the client's frequency, and who you're channeling and what you're channeling. A lot of time, there's a lot of channels out there who don't even know who they're channeling. They don't know what it is. Now, obviously, if they're doing their intentions in any kind of integrity, they're going to bring forth the highest love and light. You may not always discern a name or an entity, but you'll get a feeling. But knowing what you're channeling will also tell you where that limit is. So I don't know what you mean by, someone's asking, what is a super ego? I've never heard the term super ego. To me, what the guides are showing me in reference to this is just somebody who is operating and living in their ego. We can develop a spiritual ego, which we talked about a little while earlier, where the ego gets hip on the language. But there's nothing wrong with your ego. Ego is not a bad thing whatsoever. You can use your ego. Your ego is here to be of service to you. It wants to keep you safe. So as soon as it trusts that you will actually do what's in the best interest for you, and you will be able to navigate the things that cause you pain or discomfort, your ego becomes your ally and starts to work with you. We're here to bring all of our aspects, our ego, our inner children, and our higher aspects together as a family into this body to operate fully consciously in this experience. But everybody just wants to kill their ego and shut up their inner children and leap right into multidimensionality. And you can't do that, because again, we have this that happens, right? So the more light you allow in, the more this shit is going to come up no matter what. So you don't want, this is why I'm a ground up teacher. I teach you how to manage this so that when we do this, it's not like, holy shit, I'm going to have a healing crisis, right? This is why I'm not a proponent of people, doing things that they're not ready to do. You can't just book a DNA session, a DNA activation and restructuring session with me. You have to reach out to me, and I have to tap into your energy. And for me, I say, you're not ready yet. Or I'll say, okay, you get on my spirit calendar. And when spirit tells me this is the day and time, then that's when it will happen for you. But I've turned people away because I'm not going to do that. But, I've worked with healers and teachers that didn't know their own power and didn't know how to manage and discern and do things in a way that is efficient for the client and themselves. And it threw me into a healing crisis. And so I've had to endure a lot of things. It's part of my divine path. I endured a lot so that I could be different and show up differently and not help people not have that experience. So having, just jumping in and doing too much all at once is, again, light coming in is going to push this up. That's also where you get a physical ascension in your body, right? The more light you allow in your body, the more you feel the alignments of the planets, the more you feel the influxes of the Schumann, the more you feel when there's solar flares, because you're allowing the light to come into your body. You've made enough space and you're allowing it to. But if your heart's super closed off, you might not even be allowing the light in. This is why so many people who are what we call, asleep or non-player characters, or whatever, they're not affected by the energy because their heart is so closed off that they're not allowing any light into their body. And then some people might be more like certain. So this is something they're saying is star seeds. Ones that everybody has multiple lineages of star families that are here. But say some who are maybe from Arcturus or more Arcturian in nature, they don't feel the same way everybody else feels. So everyone has a different level. And that's something that I talk a lot about in the energy matrix as well, is the range of frequency that we have on Earth. We don't have this anywhere else in any other universe. And we're not the only ones. I mean, if you want to step into the multiverse and enter into other universes, some of those universes have 3 and 4 genders. Some of those universes are completely different. So you really want to work in your universe, and you really want to work with your multidimensional self. But the ego is not a bad thing. It's just an aspect of yourself. All right, let's see. Any other questions? Thanks for the follows, guys. And for the roses. Appreciate you. Appreciate all your donations and everything. It really helps right now to keep me going. Okay, any last things that you guys really want to talk about, or anything that's coming up that you really would want help on before we wrap? We've been on for a long time today. I don't think I've ever been on this long. I know that a lot of you are looking for an energy update from me. We'll probably come on live next week and probably bring an energy update through. Here's the thing with the energy updates. They're probably going to start being more mini, or if I do big ones, they're not going to be so focused on the whole entire month because things are changing so rapidly. We collectively vote, and what you do and what you say is a vote for more of the same, but on a subconscious, on a soul level, we're all voting to go slower or faster into this shift, if you will, into the new frequency. And the faster we go, the more abrupt things break down, and the more things feel more shock and awe, like, again, because we're all saying we're ready to go. And so that we allow more of the light in, and then we go, okay, now we stop. And so we've been going through it, and from an energy reader perspective, it's kind of challenging to keep up with, because we go through these starts and stops where everybody's like gung-ho, we're all ready, and they allow all this light in. And when they allow the light in, the anger ramps up. More truth is revealed. There's more exposed, right? Again, I use the dimmer switch. If you clean the whole house and then someone hits that dimmer switch up just a little bit to allow you to see a little bit more dirt that you didn't see before, it wasn't that dirt wasn't there. It was always there. You just didn't see it. So then you clean that up, right? And then you put the light up. Someone hits that dimmer switch up a little bit more, and you're like, oh my God, there's more dirt I missed. Right? It wasn't that it wasn't always there. It's just that we couldn't see it before. And that's what's happening on the world. So when people on a soul level vote for us to go faster, we go through these huge influxes where the planet frequency increases in huge increments, and it's not going back down. A lot of people think, oh, these are short-term influxes. No, this is constant. This is sustainable increases. So when that comes up, all of a sudden now we have to integrate that template of light. And in order for that template to integrate into your light, or to your body, right? To your, remember, ascension is crystalline energy replacing the carbon base of your human body. So carbon is replaced by crystalline. That is the process of ascension. It's very physical. Is the process of the changing of your body from carbon to crystalline. So then we go through these huge influxes, and all of a sudden everybody freaks out, right? Because now they're super anxious, and maybe they're starting to have more ascension symptoms. And then all of a sudden the world stage ramps up, and then everybody goes, oh, slow down, slow down, slow down. There's too much. I can't handle it. And so we go through this slow down period, and then it's like whiplash, it's like energetic whiplash, because it's constant false starts. It's not that they're actually false starts, but that's how the energy feels. It's like, okay, we're going, and I'll feel like, okay, I'll feel the timelines come in for these really big shifts. And if I go online, and I've learned my lesson, my guides don't like to give predictions anymore for this exact reason. We'll say, oh my God, I feel like April's going to be it, and we're all going to shift. And then, but come beginning of March, everyone starts gung-hoing, and then they're like, oh, this is too much. I can't take this ride. I got to stop. And we slow down. Well, now you've just pushed that shift from that big thing from happening from April to, say, maybe, I don't know, July. So it's that constant of what's happening. And so as to be in integrity, I've been listening to the guides and being focusing more on how you navigate your everyday reality and navigate the energy instead of what's coming, because you're just going to brace for impact. You're just going to brace for impact. And the more light and good we have in the world, the more uncomfortable the ride to get there is going to be. And it's just what it is. And traditional preparedness comes from a state of fear anyway. So there's nothing really for you to prepare for. Be in the now moment. Deal with what's coming up as it comes, and you will be okay. If you're trying to pack all that shit and be like, I'll deal with this later, I'll deal with this later. No, that doesn't work. It's not going to work. Even my 87-year-old dad is seeing through so much. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, but there's also those people that are very stuck in denial. So the more light we allow in, and the more the world stage is activated, what it does is it works as a pressurizing, and it like squeezes people to the point to where they're like, now I'm going to break. Now I'm going to look at this. Because here's the thing. The only way to break denial is to see that you're in denial. It's the only way. The only way to break denial is to recognize that you are in denial. If you try to convince somebody of something that they're in denial of, you're only going to push them further into denial. So trying to wake people up who don't want to be woken up, you're just wasting your time. One day it will all switch on for them, and they'll be like, oh my God, because once you see it, once you recognize that you're in denial and you see what you need to see that's been there that whole entire time, because now the light's all the way up and you're like, oh, fuck, I can't unsee it. Now it's a choice. Now you're choosing. This is why a lot of people stay in denial. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to open that link. I don't want to read that. I don't want to entertain that, because if I do, now I have to take responsibility for my life. Drop the mic. That was a good one. So you guys are going to see me talk to my guides as they talk to me. Drop the damn mic with that one. Once you finally see something, now you got to take responsibility. Now you're choosing it. Now you're choosing it. So you got to take responsibility and be like, oh, you mean that just because of all these bad things happening, I can still be happy and still be in peace and still be chill? And yeah, you absolutely can. But you have to be willing to see and break the illusion. A lot of people, they're just not ready, but they will be. And so there were many timelines where we were already through a lot of this and moved on, but we can only go as fast as the collective goes. And every single person makes up that collective. So again, something I constantly say and will continue to say until the day I'm no longer human, and then I will probably haunt you and come back and tell you again, is this. You dictate your state of being. You dictate your state of being. You have to take responsibility for your life. You have to choose for yourself. You have to be willing to see the truth. You have to be willing Nothing outside of you dictates anything but you. You give your power to everything. So if you want to give your power to the news and the media and you want to play in all that, then go play in that. That's for you. But when you start seeing through the illusion, it can be kind of shocking. Yeah, I'll tell you, can be quite shocking for people who I think it's awesome that he's 87. I think that gives so much hope, Sonia. That he's 87 and he is like getting hip on it. He's like, man, I'm seeing it. Right? It probably took him a really long time to get to that space. I know people who live and die on the news, and or snoops or fact checkers, and it's like, goodness gracious, they're doing a whole lot to protect their illusion. Because some people think ignorance is bliss. And in a way, it kind of is, but really, it's just avoidance. Eventually, it will all catch up with you. It will all catch up with you. Jesus does what? Who's the male energy that's around you? Very strong presence. That would be my father. My dad is always with me. Entering into the fifth dimensional awakening, everything's a level of awakening. The fifth dimension is probably moving from the fourth dimension, physically moving from the fourth dimension to the fifth dimension, and embodying that level of consciousness on an everyday waking reality, even when nobody's watching me, is probably the most challenging thing I've ever done consciously. That takes a lot for me to say that. This move from to embodying the fourth dimension to embodying the fifth dimension and living without judgment and living in a state of peace, even when things all around me are not in a state of peace, is the most challenging thing I've ever done consciously. And I know, because I've already seen it, that I will get through it and I will get there, and then I will guide whoever wants to be guided through. But I will tell you, it's the most bizarre and challenging yet exciting thing that I've ever done. Like, there are days where I'm like, yeah, I could just go back to being non-physical. It'd be a lot easier. And then there's days like, but man, this is getting good. I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder how I'm going to be when I finally anchor fully in that frequency, when I have zero judgment. I wonder how that will be. I wonder how I will experience the world. Like, there's a curiosity in me that keeps me moving forward. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Oh man, this is why I opened a membership, because this is what I will do. I will talk for hours. It's 111. I can literally, when you tap into your own well of wisdom, you can just keep going and tapping in more and more. Oh my goodness, guys. So let me tell you, we're going to continue with the March Madness. I will come on next week and give some type of energy update. I'll see what the guides want to bring through to really help you navigate the energies and see how they would like to support you moving forward. So look for that for next week. I have amazing things happening. So if you're somebody who is wanting to embody those higher perspectives of yourself, or even your inner children or ego, if you're wanting to embody them and stop repeating the patterns and the cycles, I am highlighting my quantum embodiment sessions. It's something that I've only ever done for myself. I did teach a little bit of it in the energy matrix, but I'm offering private sessions for it now. So you can check out those. But I also have the Self Mastery Academy, which is 9 full digital courses and a monthly group coaching call where you can ask me any questions. That is super affordable. Gives you access to all the things that you need to help master your human self and your energy. And then I also have my YouTube membership, which is only $9.99 a month. And so my goal is to build my YouTube membership to where it's like this when I come on, where I have lots of live participants, because I thrive on interaction. I thrive on working with people. The guides will give me general messages to channel, but as I embody these, I literally feel like I know nothing. And then someone will ask me something and I know everything about it. So that's how it kind of works. Like, you know nothing, but you also know everything. And so people have to inquire. And so it makes it easier for me if I have a live audience. So I'm working on building my membership up to a point to where when I go live, I have a live audience all the time. And I can come in there for hours and leave all kinds of wisdom. That's the kind of thing that I get excited about. So if that kind of thing excites you, then think about joining my membership, my YouTube channel. All of the links are available wherever the links are. But here's the thing. This is what I want to end with. Do your best for you. Love yourself first. And then if you have room to love someone else, then you can do that. But it has to start with you. It has to start with you. So whatever you need to do to be in peace and harmony is what you need to do to get through whatever it is you're going through. And if that means that you can only love yourself that day, then that's what you do. But if you have extra space and you want to love on someone else, or you want to be a sounding board for someone else, or hold space for someone else, and you have the room to do it, then do it. But when you don't. Honor yourself. And if the very best thing you could do today was get out of bed and brush your teeth, celebrate that. And if you had a really good day and you were able to function and not take things personal, celebrate that. Start working with where you're judging yourself. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be eating that. Well, you have to ask yourself. You're going to keep doing it until you no longer need to do it or want to do it. You just have to be listening to yourself, be working with yourself, be loving with yourself. I hear a lot of talk on the world stage about unity. True unity is when you are no longer in inner conflict with yourself. True unity is when you are when you are in synergy and union with all parts of your being, with your angry inner child who's still pissed off at your parents, with your protector ego personality that wants to chime in every time someone says something because you were bullied. Or maybe it's your higher self, right? Whatever it is, whatever aspect of you is showing up, is you being loving to that part of you and saying, you are okay to be here. I love you anyway. For those of you who have read my book or who have worked with me and who know the 4 frequencies, they are powerful. They are meant to take you through all 4 stages of the awakening into that complete embodiment, 0 point, and begin again. So whatever you're going through, whatever you need to do, make sure you're honoring yourself first and that you are being gentle with yourself. Some days, especially this past week, it's not that I had bad days. There were some bad days, meaning I was emotional and allowing myself to purge those emotions. But some days I get up, I meditate, I do what I need to do, and then the rest of the day, I lay around and do nothing. You know why? Because that's all I can do that day. And that gets to be okay. Gets to be okay. So stop making things mean something that they don't mean. You decide. You decide what anything means. Over what I say, over what your guides say, over what Jesus himself says. You decide what things mean. And you decide what's enough for you. That power is always within you. So I love you guys. Thanks for hopping on and spending your morning with me. I really enjoyed our conversations today. And I hope to see more of you in other experiences. Let's go deeper. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.